Today on Dr. Phil, shootings like this
My son killed 2 boys and wounded 11 others.
are becoming all too common.
Was it your gun that your son used to shoot these students?
An exclusive prison interview with the gunman.
What was your plan?
I wanted to die that day, yeah.
You wanted the police to kill you.
Could you be raising a killer?
You guys have looked at the Aurora shooting and thought, my God, that could be my son. Let's do it. If we're going to do something here that matters, then we got to deal with the truth.
Have a good show, everybody. Here we go.
If I can help get this family back on track, are you willing to do that?
Ready, free. Take.
This is going to be a changing day in your life. Go, Dr. Phil. They have been described as a nice guy, a very bright young man, a well-behaved boy, a good-hearted kid, really funny and normal, and academically at the top of the top. Who would have thought they would all grow up to be accused of mass murder?
911, what's your emergency?
Each year, approximately 20 mass shootings happen in the United States, but they never get any easier to comprehend.
I think the biggest question everyone's asking is why.
Columbine.
Looking for additional victims and suspects.
They're going in, they're going in.
Virginia Tech.
After today's bloody massacre, the death toll now stands at 33.
Northern Illinois.
Stephen Kazmierczak murdered 5 people and injured 16 more.
And the Omaha Mall.
I have people who are down and injured who've been shot.
And it's hard to forget the Tucson shooting of Gabby Gifford, and most recently, the shooting in the Aurora, Colorado movie theater where dozens were injured and 12 people died.
I got people running out of the theater that were shot.
A massacre in a movie theater.
We need rescue inside the auditorium, multiple victims.
Chaos and carnage
And there's just dead bodies like everywhere.
caused by a cold and calculating killer.
Well, the question today is, how does this happen, and how would you know if you, in fact, were raising a killer? Because think about it. Every one of these shooters has a mother and father. Is it even possible to know? Are there any warning signs? Are the children themselves to blame, or are the parents to blame? Well, today I plan to answer these questions and more. Plus, we'll meet some parents who say that they, in fact, do get it and they are scared of their own sons. But first, a very rare interview with the father of a boy who grew up to be a school shooter. In 2001, this 15-year-old went to school with a .22 caliber revolver and 40 bullets in his backpack. Their life has never been the same.
When my son Andy was a little boy,
There you go.
he was friendly, and I don't think Andy even steps on ants.
Come on, Dad.
I never thought Andy would grow up to commit murder. At the age of 15, Andy was attending high school in Santee, California. My son took a gun to school and killed 2 other young boys and wounded 11 others. On March 5th, 2001, I was at work and they had the TV on. There was a school shooting. They were asking for all the parents to come to the schools to pick up their kids. I walked around the parking lot for 2 hours looking for Andy, and here are these 2 classmates of Andy, and I turn around and go, oh, thank goodness. Have you guys seen Andy? And they were bawling, and through their tears, they went, he did it. I was devastated. I just felt like the whole world was crushing down on me. That morning, he wrote a goodbye note, and then he went to school. And Andy went into the bathroom, loaded up the pistol, walked out of the stall, shot Brian in the back of the head, shot this other kid in the stomach. Brian died in the bathroom. The other kid sat there and watched Andy shoot 8 rounds, come back in. About 5 or 6 times he reloaded and went out to the door and shot at the kids. Andy had enough of the bullying, picking on even from his friends. Andy was turned into a killer.
Well, Andy's father, Jeff, is joining me along with his partner, Donna. Donna's son was at the high school on the day of the shooting, and Donna raced to the school to find her son and help with the chaos. So I appreciate your being here as well. Where did he get the gun?
The gun was in my gun cabinet, which was locked.
So was it your gun and your bullets that your son used to shoot these students?
Yes, there was my gun and my bullets and my key to the gun cabinet.
As you look back now, we always say hindsight's 20/20. As you look back now, did you miss warning signs? Were there indications that would in any way suggest that this was going to happen?
I don't think there was any indications that it would go to this far. Yes, he had his grades went down. He didn't like going to school. Wasn't too fond of his two friends that he hung out the most with.
But didn't you go to the school the Friday before this happened on Monday to talk to the school authorities about your son?
Yes, on the Friday before the shooting, I went in that morning to speak to the vice principal, and he wouldn't see me. He sent me down to the attendance people. I asked them to call me like they were doing the previous semester, and they said, no, we have too many kids, we can't do that. She sent me to the guidance counselor. So I went down to the guidance counselor and I asked her, you know, when my son's skipping school, you know, can you please call me? And she gave me her card and goes, well, you can call us, we'll tell you if he's here.
That moment that those kids told you when you said, where is Andy? And they said, he did it. Take me through that moment.
I couldn't believe it. I was dumbfounded that Andy would do something like this. And I turned around and there was a sheriff there behind the police rope, and I tapped him on the shoulder and I said, hi, my name is Jeff Williams. I think my son's the shooter. And then I spent the rest of the afternoon. But I don't think it didn't hit me really emotionally until later that night. And I woke up and I went outside and I was just bawling and screaming for about 30 minutes. And my sister had to come and take me back inside. It was devastating. I felt like somebody just literally ripped out my heart, threw it down and stomped on it.
He signed a note to you, I'm sorry, Dad. I love you. So he knew when he left that morning what he intended to do.
Yes.
And you said that, quote, he turned into a killer. What do you mean, turned into?
When I left work that morning, the Andy I knew and raised was in bed. I left for work at about 6 o'clock. I, said, I'll see you later. 3 hours later, that wasn't my son that I raised by myself for the previous 12 years. Mm-hmm. And it was a totally, completely different person that morning.
You said that you thought that he may have been sexually abused.
Yes. During the investigations of the shooting, we had our suspicions that Andy may have been sexually abused by an adult.
In fact, you think he may have been raped the night before the shooting, and I know you can't talk about that a lot because of some other things that are going on, but that was your suspicion.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Coming up, inside the mind of this teen that turned a gun on his classmates. You're going to hear me talk to Andrew from prison.
I just wanted to cause enough ruckus where the police would show up and the police would shoot me.
So you wanted to die that day?
I wanted to die that day, yeah.
We got the chance to talk to Andrew from prison. You're going to hear me ask him, what were you thinking that led up to this? And what was your reaction once it was done? All right, Andy, this is Dr. Phil. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for talking to us today. You know the substance of our conversation. I have had an interview, sat down with your father and talked to him. I wanted to ask you some questions because we're all trying to figure out and learn what's going on here when these kinds of things happen. So are you willing to answer some of those questions for me?
Yeah, absolutely. Anything I can do to try to, like, prevent this in the future, I'd be more than willing to do.
All right. Well, it's my understanding that on March 5th of 2001, you took a gun to school and you killed 2 students and you injured 11 others. Was that your plan that day? Did you plan to shoot and kill fellow students?
No, sir.
What was your plan that day?
Essentially, it was just to, like, go to school. I was aware that I was going to be shooting at people, but in my mind, I just wanted to like cause enough ruckus and cause a big enough scene to where the police would show up and the police would shoot me.
So you wanted to die that day. You wanted the police to kill you.
I wanted to die that day, yes.
Okay, but when you got there, it's my understanding that you loaded this gun in the bathroom. Is that true?
Yes, sir.
And that you immediately shot 1 student in the back of the head, killing him. Is that true?
No, I stayed in the bathroom for about 5 minutes trying to talk myself out of it.
How long before it was the first student that you shot?
About 5 minutes.
Uh-huh. And did you shoot that student in the head?
I did.
Okay, well, that seems inconsistent with saying that you just wanted to create a bunch of ruckus and shoot guns off and get killed by police if you shot someone. I understand it was pretty much point blank in the head.
No, of course. It was just, I just opened the door and pulled the trigger.
I see. And you just hit someone in the head.
Yes, sir.
All right. Andy, help me with this. And I'm sure you've asked yourself this question a million times. Mm-hmm. Why did you do what you did?
Thinking about it now, it's weird, man. It's not like the people that I hurt the most, like, and the 2 boys that got killed, they had nothing to do with the issues that I was facing, man. So it's really like the people that bear the biggest burden for this have nothing to do with it. Essentially, man, it was just like I wanted to die. I wanted my pain to stop, and I thought it was not a good idea, but I thought this was an end all. You know what I mean? Like if I do this, the pain will end and everything will be done.
Well, tell me about that pain. What was happening with you that drove you to this point?
No, I was just getting picked on a lot. A friend of mine's, like, stepdad was sexually abusing of, like, 3 of the kids in the neighborhood. Like, you know what I mean? I was just using a lot of drugs. It was just like I didn't know how to end all these things that I wanted to stop.
Were you sexually molested yourself?
Yeah, by this guy, yeah.
By that guy. And mm-hmm. When was the last time that he had victimized you?
He victimized a friend of mine 3 days before all this happened, but he messed with me about 3 weeks, a month before it happened.
And what did he do to you? Was this a rape situation where you fondled? What happened?
No, it wasn't like a rape thing, but he would exchange, like, he would go get us alcohol or drugs, and my buddy got it the worst, but he would try to, like, he would grab all of us. Mm-hmm. It's kind of weird to talk about.
Well, I understand, and I'm sorry to bring that up, but he was groping you and that sort of thing. What kind of drugs were you doing?
Just marijuana. My buddy's mom, she was on pain pills, so we would get her pain pills from her.
So pain pills and marijuana?
Yeah.
Were you high the day you went to school?
Not that day, no.
Had you been drinking or drugging the night before?
2 days before that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things that we're always interested in is whether or not people have missed warning signs. Did your father, did anybody around you miss warning signs? Were there things that others could and should have seen that would have tipped us to the point that you were this desperate?
I don't know. My dad caught all the warning signs. This happened on a Monday. Friday, I kept skipping school, and he drove me to school and was yelling at the counselors, telling them that, like, every time I skipped school, they needed to call home. Like, he caught he caught me skipping school. He caught my grades slipping. Like, I would come home bruised up, but I would lie to him and tell him I got into a fight.
Were you getting beat up at school?
Yeah.
And who was beating you up?
I mean, unfortunately, it was just like the people that I would call my friends.
People that you would call your friends were beating you up?
Yeah.
Why were they doing this, and what was your understanding of it at the time?
I don't know. I was the new guy. I was little. I mean, I was the easy target.
You were the new guy and you were small, so they just picked on you?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Did you ever consider suicide, just as other than by cop? Did you ever consider shooting yourself, hanging yourself, doing something to end your own life?
Absolutely, but it's weird, man, because at the time, like, I couldn't figure out a way to do it that wouldn't hurt, and I was just so tired of pain. I was like, man, I don't want to go out hurting when all I've done for the last 8 months is hurt. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. Were you ever honest with your father about it? You said you lied to him that you'd just been in a fight.
Yeah.
Did you ever tell him you were being bullied?
Never.
Did you threaten to pull a Columbine at school?
The Friday beforehand, me and like two friends of mine, we sat down and we talked all this stuff out because they were supposed to do it with me. I told every person that I came across that like I knew a little bit. I would tell them what was up, just thinking, okay, these guys are gonna, like, any rational person would stop somebody that's saying this is what they're gonna do. And now, like, some people even encourage me, but not one person tried to stop me.
Did you want people to stop you? Is that why you were telling people?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Did you feel like you had to follow through on it once you made the threat?
I mean, saying that I was like obligated to bring a gun to school seems kind of silly now, but I think like to my 15-year-old mind, like I like boxed myself in.
Mm-hmm. And when you told people what you were going to do, what did you tell them?
A friend of mine, I told her that I was going to go to school and I was going to try to shoot people in the leg.
Do you regret your actions?
Absolutely.
What would you tell your 15-year-old self today if you could have that conversation?
No, just to go get help, man. Reach, like, as hard as the conversation's going to be to try to fix the multitude of problems that 15-year-old Andy was having, as hard as it is that the first step's going to be to try to change all that behavior and to change those habits, it's a whole lot easier than the million that I got to take every day in this place.
If the parents of the victims are watching this right now, what would you say to them?
No, I'm just so sorry. I never meant for like my selfish actions to affect these people so much. I didn't even think it. I didn't think about it. I didn't know that was going to affect them this much.
Will you ever walk out of prison alive?
I don't know, man. I don't know if I deserve to.
Next, we'll meet parents who say they believe their son is 150% capable of murder.
A massacre in a movie theater. The accused gunman is identified as 24-year-old James Holmes.
He stands out now as an accused spree killer. But in earlier days, James Holmes distinguished himself in the classroom.
He was an honor student, so academically he was at the top of the top.
Holmes moved to Aurora, where he enrolled as a graduate student in neuroscience. Jackie Mitchell says he ran across Holmes this week.
My impression was, bookworm college type guy. It seemed like it was nothing like this would, going on.
As much as he was, always smiling when I was around, he was quiet.
There were very few red flags.
No one wants to believe that their child is capable of murder. But Jim and Nicole say they are so afraid their 16-year-old boy is going to do something terrible that they check in with each other up to 50 times a day just to make sure that each other is safe.
I am 150% sure that my son could kill somebody. When my 15-year-old son gets angry, it's like a light switch. His eyes turn black. I hate to say it, but all I see is evil. One day, my son got enraged. He went to the kitchen and grabbed a knife. He stabbed the counter. I had to gather up the kids and take them to the back room.
When I came into the kitchen, my son had the knife and he was holding it like this, banging on the counter, staring at me like he was going to use the knife. And that's when I grabbed him and took him to the ground. My son was screaming, calling me a fat pig and
It just feels like I'm just not in control of myself anymore.
My son has told me when I'm restraining him, that if he gets loose, he will kill me in my sleep. He will get a knife and stab me to death.
The last incident that happened, he punched me in the mouth and split open the inside of my mouth because I wouldn't let him ride his bicycle. After my son punched me, I told him I hated him. I have so much guilt because I don't hate him. I love him so much. I never dreamt that my baby could become a monster.
Your son is not here. I've also, in your tape pieces, not allowed you to say his name. And we have another couple here, Nick and Kelly. Everything I say to them, I want you all to be listening to, and I did the same thing with them and their son. We just have a rule here. I don't want to air something about a kid on Monday that they go to school on Tuesday and it affects their day. Yeah. And what you're basically saying here is that your son, in your opinion, is capable of murdering someone, the two of you,
yes,
or someone else. Bottom line, you're worried about your son shooting someone.
Very much so.
True? You said you're 150% certain that that could happen.
Yes.
Tell me why.
It's like a light switch. I don't know how else to describe it except for he can be totally fine one minute, but if you get him so mad, he can't control it. He blacks out. He says he blacks out. And it's a totally different person. He gets violent.
You've had to deal with him when he was holding a butcher knife, and he has threatened to stab you and kill you.
He has threatened to stab me in my sleep, kill me in my sleep.
So you guys have looked at things like the Gabriella Gifford shooting, the Aurora shooting, and thought, oh, my God, that could be my son.
Exactly. It's just a matter of the wrong person making him mad, and he can't control it.
I just want to tell you, you've done the right thing here. You've come to the right place, because we're going to figure this out, okay? You know, right now, your son is the target patient. He's the one making all the noise, right?
Yes.
He's the one getting all the attention. He's choked your 10-year-old daughter.
She's 14.
14 now, but he's choked her.
Yes.
He's dislocated a friend's shoulder, arm. So we know that he can get violent. Oh, yeah. He has hit you. Yes. Hit you in the mouth to the point that it bled.
It busted open the inside of my mouth and bruised it all out.
You've had to physically restrain him. Yeah. So that means, for sure, this is over your head. Yeah. Okay? When it gets to the point that you're having to physically restrain your son and take him to the ground with a butcher knife in his hand, then you've gone beyond parenting skills. I mean, this is not something that you're equipped to do. Now, I made some notes here because there's more going on here than just him. You've moved 12 times. 12 times you've moved.
Yes.
He has actually verbalized that that's a problem for him.
He has.
He's always the new kid. He's having to leave friends. He can't get roots. I mean, it's a problem for any child. We're going to talk to you guys in a minute. How many times have you moved?
Almost as much.
I'll count them for you. It's 11.
11.
You guys have moved 11 times. You guys have moved 12 times. Out of anger, you reject him. I hate you. You told your son, I hate you. And I'm not saying it to make you feel bad. I know you don't hate your son. But just like him, you get so backed up, it's just, you just blurt things out. You have a gun collection in the home.
Yes.
Locked up.
Yes. In a gun safe.
In a gun safe.
Very secure.
It's not a good idea. You know, and I'm not an anti-gun guy, so I'm not saying that, but there's no latency there. I mean, you'd feel terrible if something happened in that situation.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now, we spoke to their son in order to find out if his parents have reason to worry. Let's hear what he has to say, and it is very, very interesting.
I just get so mad. I just don't really think about anything. I don't remember it, really.
What's the worst thing you think you could do?
Probably kill somebody on accident. Like, not thinking, and really hurt them really bad.
I want me to not be angry like that, get like that anymore, so that I'm not like hurting everybody in my family, and so my family doesn't fall apart.
What do you think about what he says?
It's heartbreaking. I've never heard him say it. It's just, I've never said it out loud until now either, but it scares me. It scares me even more that it goes through his mind.
But we hear so often they say they just snapped. But the truth is, people don't snap like that. There's a long build-up to these kind of things. There was some first link in the chain that started all of this.
Yeah.
And I am long convinced that people turn to violence when they run out of socially acceptable ways to express themselves. They don't think they're being heard. They don't think they have the ability to say it. And when they can't use their words, then they start using other things. And when you're seeing him rage, you've got to assume he's run out of words, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
He's run out of word power. He's run out of connection power. He's run out of influence. And so now he's going to manage by brute force. That's important because it tells us something we can change, right?
Yeah.
Something that we can do. Jim and Nicole say they aren't the only parents worried about their violent son. My next guests say their son is obsessed with guns, he makes homemade bombs, and he's only 14. Well, I mentioned that there was another couple here, Kelly and Nick. They're also here because they say their son explodes when he gets angry, that he is obsessed with guns, and that he is already making homemade bombs. Now, he's 14. Take a look.
When I first heard about the shooting in Colorado, I did think that that could have been my son. I am terrified that my son is capable of being a killer. My son held his 5-year-old stepbrother's head underwater in the hot tub until he started puking. We've had to let my mom keep our dog because my son has just tormented her so much that the dog shakes every time he comes into the room.
My stepson cannot control his temper at all. Unless he punches something, he doesn't feel better.
He just balls up his fists and starts hitting things and yelling.
You're clueless! Stop hitting the seat! Stop punching my feet! Stop it!
I can control my anger sometimes, but when things that are important to me make me mad, then it's kind of hard to control.
My son has broken his bed. He's broken his desk. He's broken a dresser. He's ripped up parts of the carpet. He's put holes in the walls. Just last Monday, my son was upset about having to do the dishes, and he continued to start yelling at me and slamming dishes.
He started throwing utensils on the ground, shoving forks, plates in my wife's face. So that's when we started arguing.
The fight ended with my son getting so mad he punched something and busted his knuckles open.
I think it's a 100% sure fact that my stepson is going to go to jail soon if he keeps on the same path.
My son has made his own homemade bombs, guns, blow darts. Just this last weekend, my son was Googling nitroglycerin and how to make it at home. I'm to the point where I'm ready to give my son up to authorities.
Okay, obviously I've added you guys to this conversation, and I say added instead of switched out because I'm going to say some things here that apply to both of your circumstances and situations, as well as people at home that are dealing with the same circumstance. You're ready to give up.
I am.
Tell me.
I think that I've done everything that I can as a parent. I've talked to authorities, I've counseling, therapy, talking to him, and I just can't get anywhere.
What do you think about this?
I don't want to give up on my stepson at all, and I see the things that she goes through as well, and it's hard. It's almost hard not to resent him sometimes, you know, to see the things that he says to her and to me and to his other siblings.
When you watch these shootings like Aurora, Colorado, do you look at that and say, my God, I could see this happening?
Every time that there's a news broadcast about it, I think about, you know, could my son do that when he's older or even in the next couple years?
Are you part of the problem?
I think I am. I don't know how to talk to my son anymore, so...
Automatically, you just get frustrated and kind of give up.
Let me tell you what I wrote down from what he said. He says that you watch television and don't want to talk to him. He said, and I quote, I want someone to listen. He says he gets angry, and he does it to get his parents' attention. She knows I'm bullied, but doesn't do anything to prevent it. You've moved 11 times, and you've basically said, I'm ready to give up and turn him over to the authorities.
I don't know what else to do anymore.
Let's take a look at what he has to say, and then I've got a few questions here.
When my mom makes me angry,
You told me. No, I'm not telling you.
she knows how to press my buttons, and that's what she does.
I'm not telling you that. Because you don't listen to me.
My mom wants to single me out because I had a problem with smoking spice and weed, but really, I can just stop smoking, and then the problems are still there. Most of the time, my mom ignores me. She plays on her phone. She doesn't answer questions. So really, I'm not the only problem. They're not doing good either.
Okay, now, what'd you think about what he said?
Some of it's true.
What part's not?
I do try to listen to him. I have talked to him. We have had conversations, but he gets angry, and so I just don't want to talk to him anymore.
What is spice?
Spice is a synthetic marijuana.
Right.
That they put a chemical on and basically they smoke it. It's like...
She says you smoke it daily. She says you smoke it in front of him.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
It's not good.
Have you bullied him?
No, I've called him names before.
What?
I've called him fat, and I've called him big boy, and I've called him, you know, mainly the only thing I really said big time was the whole issue about his weight, and that's what was bothered. It bothers me a lot that I said that. And of course I regret it. I mean, I wouldn't be here if I didn't love my stepson.
Right.
So.
Okay, but now as we talk about this, let's say they went off, God forbid, and did some violence against society. And they started that endless analysis and picking. And these things started to come out. How do you think those things would be perceived? As contributing factors?
Absolutely.
Of course they would, because they are contributing factors. Are they outcome determinative? No, look, I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying what you need to do first is clean your own house. You need to say, look, I don't know if I'm the active ingredient here, but I don't want to be an ingredient at all. I don't know if this is genetic, if he has brain problems or whatever, but I don't want to be part of the problem at all. So I need to clean up things on my own end. Coming up, Jeff has a message for these parents that you don't want to miss.
I heard a rumor that Andy and a group of his friends had talked about going to school with a gun like Columbine.
I can't picture him doing this on his own, but he went and took the gun and did it himself, even though he was supposed to have two people help.
Did you have any idea in your mind or heart when you left for work that morning that you might never see your son at home again?
Dr. Phil, when I left to go to work that day of the shooting, I totally expected to come home and see my son after the end of the school day. And that was, like, I think it was the biggest surprise of my life.
You've heard me talking to these parents here today. Anything that you want to say to them?
Man, please get your sons the help they need. I'm very envious of you guys. You have an opportunity. I didn't have an opportunity. I did the best I can, and it wasn't good enough. Take everything you can to fix your kid, because you don't want to miss it. Because it's like, I have to relive this shooting every time another one happens. And when I go see him, I see him surrounded by murderers, serial killers, rapists, and child molesters. You know, that's not how I expected to see my son at 25 years old. Not at all.
And get rid of your guns.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
take the
they
gun.
may be locked. Jeff was in a locked gun cabinet with the keys and all. Get rid of your guns, please.
Yeah, yeah. I would definitely do that. Thank you.
Well, Jeff, I just, I so acknowledge and appreciate your courage in coming here today and using your life to try to message these things. Why did you agree to come here today and talk about this?
Because I have to relive those days every time there's a shooting, and I don't want anybody else to have to do that. I know it's going to happen, but take whatever you can and not so it doesn't happen again to you. You know, it's terrible. It's a terrible way to see what happened to your son.
Are you a parent that's sitting there watching this show and it's going to wind up being your son that goes out and does this? I don't want that to happen. When we come back, I'm going to tell you what you need to watch for if you're concerned about a violent child or someone you love. We'll be right back. Well, my guests today have been parents that have shared some of their biggest fears about their son, and I realize it's not easy for a parent to admit when they're scared of their own children. Now, I want to introduce Dr. Frank Lawless. Dr. Lawless is author of the book, Mending the Broken Bond, and he is chairman of the Dr. Phil Advisory Board. And he is also the clinical director of the P&P Center, which is one of the leading diagnostic and treatment centers in the United States. And Dr. Lawless, I want to talk about both of these young men that we've discussed today, because you do believe that there could be brain involvement here that needs to at least be ruled out and evaluated. True?
Absolutely.
All right, so if an evaluation is done, you're going to do psychological evaluations, you're going to do physical examinations, you're going to do brain mapping, you're going to do all different kinds of things.
True, and we're also going to do psychological evaluation in terms of the way they handle anxiety and frustration as well.
Okay, so you guys get what's happening here, right? And so we're going to make arrangements to set up your travel to go there and have these boys evaluated and given some tools here so we can see some better behavior out of them. And then we're going to work on what needs to happen with you guys as well. So thank you for providing that. It's an amazing thing that you guys do. So I appreciate it. So what we do, basically, it comes down to this question: why does this happen, right? You don't know why these things happen until you get to the shooter and you do an evaluation properly by a skilled, trained professional to determine what the causal links were in this thing. Were there warning signs that were missed? You want to ask those questions because hopefully we can learn from that. But all these people saying, oh, well, they're crazy. Well, you know, the truth is that less than 4% of all violent acts are thought to be associated with any type of mental illness whatsoever. And it's typically not one thing. There are multiple factors. You just have to wait and see what's going on, but it takes proper evaluation. 20 of these happen per year. So we have to remain alert. We have to think through ahead of time what we would do in a crowded situation if this happens. You should talk to yourself about it. You should talk to your kids about it. But the bottom line is, people can come in after the fact and sound smart, saying, well, look here, look what he wrote, look what he did, look what he said. But that's just not predictive. Because for every kid that does those things and shoots somebody, there are millions who do the same things and don't. So all we can do is pay attention. We'll be right back. I want to thank all of my guests today. I know it's easier to kind of keep this behind closed doors and try to not put it out there, but you guys are teaching tools. I hope you've gotten help here today, and we're offering help after this is over today, but you're teaching tools. There are so many parents at home right now watching this going, oh my God, Everything he said to them, I needed to hear. Everything they're now doing, I need to do. So you've used your lives and gotten some help in the process, and that's a good trade. A special thanks to author of Mending the Broken Bond and chairman of our Dr. Phil Advisory Board, Dr. Frank Lawless. And Frank, thank you so much. And I want to thank all the dedicated staff at PNP in Dallas that always helps us out in this way. And we'll put a link to the PNP Center up on our website so you can learn more about them as well. If you're dealing with a violent child, I've posted some very helpful resources for you on drphil.com. Don't deal with this alone. If you're feeling overwhelmed, that you're over your head, it's probably because you're overwhelmed and you're in over your head. Ask for help. It is out there. And of course, feel free to share your thoughts or comments on my Facebook or Twitter page, as well as drphil.com. And if you're a teen that's dealing with issues at home and you're looking for a place to chat, we have Teen Talk message boards just for you. So be sure to check that out as well. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much.